Morning, welcome subscribers. I had this plan. I'm gonna ask everyone to help crowdfund the promotion of this discovery, basically. And I will have here a bank account number to put money into on the screen. Because this is not going away. Okay, it's mathematically sound, as I've discovered, that really the relationship to anxiety is behind all of this, including all of the moral authorities, the philosophical underpinnings of the moral authority, and you take into account, okay, this big group of humans, they all believe that anxiety is wisdom, right? And they're in control, right? And they're involved in the geopolitical realm, and they're at the senior end of banking, and those meetings between government and non-government people, right? That just would be loaded with anxieties, right? I feel, and it's like middle management in New Zealand, right? Really fraught with anxiety, and so that this is not gonna go away. This is gonna keep going, and it sticks out quite hugely that there's a very committed anxiety perspective behind a lot of what's been going on. You get the refugee issue, right? You get feminism, right? That most women aren't interested in at all. They have a lot of trouble in New Zealand getting females to engage with the idea of being in control. They want lots of women in senior management positions of companies, and it's like they're trying to emotionally blackmail everyone into it. The thing is that women are more susceptible to anxieties because they are the weaker sex. Okay, they are the weaker sex, and that's why this pushes on for feminism. Okay, because you can see by the nature of the left and like Antifa, this is anxiety. They believe that anxiety is wisdom, and they are selling it. They are doing the hard sell. Oh, Antifa, man. Because you know what? Anxiety will think courage is a fascist. And that's all there is to it. And the whole thing of political correctness just shuts down communications, right? Now, people with courage can do really complex equations in their mind very quickly, right? But people with anxiety, they just can't think of any equations. They can only have an anxiety response. They only see an anxiety response. They heavily agitate that there is minimal discussion. Okay, and so really, Twitter, this is a breeding ground for anxieties, man, because it only allows short answers for everything, right? And that sits well with this 10% allowable communication, considering the first two laws of anxiety. You want to conceal your anxieties, and then you make allowances for others to conceal their anxieties. And so how do you live in that political agreement, right? Well, you just can't say much, right? You can't say how you feel. You have to conceal how you feel, and you're not allowed to be truthful. You have to just spend your life telling lies about how you feel, right? And what it is you learn as little kids that actually that side of yourself doesn't exist. Okay, and that makes it a lot easier to live in those laws, right? So as you're growing up, people have never seen the expression of the greater person only this minimal person, right? And you know, that's why people, like, you see these, the people you see on the news, they're freaking out. Domestic arguments, you know, they're all freaking out over little points of issue, like, you said this or what the fuck ever. And that's the, you know, that's the frustration of only having this minimal amount of communication you're allowed to express. You know, it's like squeezing. You know, it's like trying to put a metre wide swath of hay through a little opening like this. You're trying to, it just isn't going to work. And so there's huge implications that these first two laws of anxiety has caused. And so yeah, the implications are far reaching, and people don't even realise it, because this is all that the world's ever known. This is the only thing the world's ever known. And while that, you know, we've got all these emotional crutches that kind of help us along, you know, that take our minds off it, you know. And, you know, people have lived quite good lives with this, like this, right? And because this aspiration is, you know, you have this typical aspiration of the middle class. And, but, you know, well, without knowing, you know, you see, this is why it's the typical aspiration, because there's never ever been a choice before, and now that the choice exists, where it's been qualified, anxiety's been qualified as a political entity. Okay, now we can actually figuratively hold that in our hands, right? Which figuratively separates it from ourselves, right? So if you look at the 8 laws, and you are aware of the 8 laws, and you can see it around you, and you can, and I know you can, I know you recognise it, I know you can remember lots of stuff that you've seen, and you can see the interaction, right? Because of the influence of anxiety and the 8 laws, and those first 2 laws, and the 4th law, which is everyone has to acquiesce, everyone has to accept without question the dishonesty caused by the first 3 laws. And the 3rd one being, you have to be okay with anyone that wants to ignore. Okay, so the implications of this has been huge, and it has formatted civilization. It has conceptualized problems, you know. So the perception of problems really does dictate what kind of answer you need, and it will dictate how you gravitate to a solution. Okay, and so you're trying to gravitate to a solution in a group setting, right? You're trying to gravitate to a solution, and the laws of anxiety come into it, right? And this is pretty much how the Middle East happens, right? The internal relationships of the different countries in the Middle East, you know, they all try and solve problems by promoting anxiety as wisdom. And that reinforces the credibility of the cause of the problem. And because they're all actually involved with causing the problem, everyone fucking re-energizes their role in the problem. So this is actually what I see from the perspective that anxiety is a political entity. And America is like that, you know, America is like that. It's entirely credible. Anxiety is extremely credible in the US. Because now you got them, they're going on about Donald Jr.'s meeting. You know what? he would have 100 meetings a week or something, and he'd rip through them. He's got a team of people. He'd have a day planner, and he's fully preoccupied with what to say. He's preoccupied with learning about things and what to say to people. And, this abject prejudice against Russia, Russia's not put a foot wrong, man. If America was Russia and you had the neighbours of Russia, America would have done a whole lot more than Russia to Chechnya and fucking all these other places, man. So this is the hypocrisy of anxiety. Okay, it's just fucking the hypocrisy of anxiety. And so as soon as we stop functioning as a group according to the belief that anxiety is wisdom, everything will fucking start going properly, and we will be able to express ourselves at 100%. Okay, we will be able to express ourselves 100%. Now, to segue over to New Zealand, right, where I am, yeah, New Zealand is an anxiety basket case, okay? There's the worst youth suicide rate in the OECD. Okay, worst suicide rate in the OECD. Just masses of domestic violence. Okay, there's been masses of police call-outs because of child abuse, right? They've got masses of files that have not even been investigated. Because kids are really, when you get everyone believing anxiety is wisdom, how it heavily promotes self-interest, right? And then you get the instance of the two adults, right? And this is why kids are the last people. I know everyone thinks they love kids and that, but actually they love anxiety more. And so kids put up with a lot of crap, and when they don't know about these 8 laws, they instinctively they know about these laws from the perspective that they have learnt them when they did not possess language. They learnt the laws, kids learnt the laws before they had language. Now that's a really key thing to know, because all these adults running around now terrorising each other about what they care about, they were all kids once, right? And so the real problem of anxiety has to be considered with how it comes across when you do not use language to think about it, because that's consciousness reacting to anxiety. Okay, it's a defensive thing. It's and so that's what's going on. And so while anxiety appropriates consciousness as its vehicle, anxiety also appropriates all of the cognitive awesomeness of consciousness to do what it does, man, and that's why sociopaths work, right? That's the sociopath, right? They have a supernatural ability to get inside your head and mess with your thinking, eh? It's like, and I've had 2 really up close and personal experiences with sociopaths, really hardcore, fucking 100% full on fucking sociopath people, man. One was a woman. The first one was a woman. She she got me hook, line and sinker, mate. I tell you what, because I've got this business idea, right? Because I think outside the jurisdiction of the 8 laws of anxiety, right? I have what I call fluid cognition. If you're in the jurisdiction of anxiety, you have static cognition. If you're outside the jurisdiction of anxiety, you have fluid cognition, right? And anyone who gets to be aware of the 8 laws, this discovery, will find themselves outside the 8 laws because they can figuratively hold it separate from themselves and perceive it as a separate thing. So while I've got this fluid cognition, I've thought all the stuff, I've discovered the 8 laws. I've also designed this portfolio of things that my company will manufacture. And all I see it is a company. It's not even a company. It's like a tree. And the more branches on the tree, the more people can sit on the branches, right? That's what I think of it. And these products are really down to helping people. And it's what it is it's human environment interface technology. Okay, human environment interface technology. Because we're interfacing with the environment all the time. And so that's the nature of the company. It's all about what's coming, eh? It's like because the thing is, there's just masses of more people, and they're flat out they are at full speed trying to figure out how to do things with less employees. Okay, because of the anxiety perspective of wealth. Okay, it's all politically correct to make more and more money, more money, more money. Whoa. This is anxiety transposed into the financial environment, right? It's the heavily promoted self-interest of anxiety, and it's the political correctness of anxiety because it's what the money would want, right? Money wants more money. Money loves money, and so it just can't. It just wants more. Because anxiety heavily promotes self-interest, and having lots of money gives people lots of anxieties. They might live a really nice life, but they know that people that've got nothing to lose can just wipe out what they've got. And that's the thing, and that's the perception of it. They sit there and they think, "Fuck, I've got all this money, all this stuff, but it's all external to themselves, right? And they don't have actual control of it because they don't have physical possession of it, right? And so yeah, it breeds anxieties, and so then you get the situation where people cause more anxieties for themselves because the exact values people have to be greedy, to put it bluntly, you transpose those exact values into the tense domestic situation. This is where your domestic violence comes in, right? Because you have this compulsion to prevail over someone. Okay, you aren't being successful unless you are prevailing over someone. Okay, and so those heavily influenced by anxieties, they often traipse around. They are compelled to find someone to prevail over them, to please anxiety. Okay, and this is this Jewish cult in the US government, right, and the banking system. Because it's really a case of we live inside the elephant in the living room. It's not the elephant in the living room. We are living inside the elephant in the living room, right? And so you get the Jewish people, the cultists, not all of the Jewish people, most of them haven't got a clue because they've been tricked into believing anxiety is wisdom as well. You get these cultists, they're all about the money, man, and politics, man, and it's like, And so that's why they dream up these stupid ideas like ruling the world and all this kind of shit. I mean, that's totally the politically correct aspiration of anxiety to want to rule the world. And that's a fact, man. It's like, it just sits around dreaming about, being in control of everything. And it's like, and that's why the phrase there, replicating the function of anxiety. And that's why those, black Americans do it. How you see they call it chimping out, which I think is a great name, because that's exactly what it is. So you get black Americans, right? They, you know what, it's down to if you respect and value education, life is great. Life can be good, amazing. If you don't value education, then you start pantomiming all these things to make it look like you're like respectable, like chimping out. And because those people do that, chimp out, right? Because they instinctively intuit that everyone that can watch it, right, all has a relationship to anxiety. They instinctively know that courage acknowledges anxiety. And so that's how that all plays out. That's the economics of that event of chimping out. And so it's not an ethnic thing at all. It's not, other ethnicities do similar things. And so, and I'll just transpose that again to the mass shootings. Most mass shootings in the US are actually done by white people. So that's really obviously these guys, well, I'm going to go kill a whole lot of people today, so really you get the Islamist extremist blowing up people and shit and using trucks and that. And then you get mostly white people doing mass shootings in America. So really it's not religion that's causing this, because the non-religious person does this as well, right? You'd think they're non-religious, but actually they are hardcore believers in anxiety. They hardcore believe in anxiety, and so they hardcore believe in the political correctness of anxiety. And that's why, and the reason people just don't understand this, it's all a big shock, and we've got to have all the security, and it's like, it's because they can't detect when people are failing to where they start being extremists, right? They can't detect it because the common belief is that anxiety is wisdom. And they instinctively know that they can't challenge the cause of these people freaking out because the genesis of their issue is in an anxiety, right? So I want to go and push this on the world, right? And I've got my number there. Now, if you were to consult your end, if you want to give me, some assistance to help me promote this, I'd be really happy about that, because all I think about is going into the central government, right, and going into the fucking media's face to explain this to them, because they heavily believe anxiety is wisdom, and they are hardwired to push back against any challenge of that, okay? So in one instance, it's like, this is something they've never thought of, right? Because anxiety's always had the moral authority. It's inconceivable that you can actually question it. Absolutely inconceivable, right? Well, I've got the means to question it, and I need to go around to all these poor places up the bloody East Coast where it's been like, there's a lot of poverty, there's not much industry, and so all these little towns, they have lots of crime, and then you get the far north of New Zealand, which has got, that's a real famous place for being really third world, man. It's third world, eh? And even in the biggest city in the world, in New Zealand, right? You're getting these third world diseases popping up here and there. Third world diseases. Okay? And so I want to go around promoting this, okay? Because in 2020 I will start a political party to do a run for the election. And it's policy based on being aware of these 8 laws of anxiety. And so that's why I will crowdfund through YouTube here for that purpose, to have the resources to be able to travel around and talk to people. And there's so many people that have spent so long babysitting dysfunctional people, and I want to go and see them, you know, and tell them the story, right? Because while they're all wrapped up in anxieties, right, having to acquiesce to anxieties, and none of them actually are used to long answers, and none of them are actually used to having someone with the patience to listen to them speak in any kind of detail about what they're experiencing, okay? Because anxiety doesn't like patience, right? And so I want to go around the place and teach everyone that there is now a choice. You now have a choice. You now have something else there. Anxiety is now not the only choice as per perception of reality, right? And so I'm going to put the number on the screen. I hope I have. And hopefully crowdfund this thing off the ground. Because right now I'm unemployed. Now the nature of the New Zealand middle management, right? They are shockers at anxiety, man. If you are a poor communicator, you will fit right in. If you are able to communicate, they do not like you, okay? And so going to a job interview, they immediately write you off as someone that can think and someone that will be able to actually take issue with the fact that they're really poor communicators. And so they've got this criminal conspiracy there to prevent anyone, well, it's a political conspiracy to prevent anybody from being in a position where they can be challenged, right? And that is really prominent in New Zealand, right? And those guys, they format fucking the social policies for the rest of us. So I feel one must get off one's butt, fucking do something about this, because something is seriously wrong with that. And it's right down to, you know, it's the difference of anxiety and courage. And, you know, anxiety does not acknowledge courage, but courage does acknowledge anxiety, right? And this is the central feature of the whole political sphere everywhere. Right in the deepest, darkest Muslim village, up in fucking Russia, fucking in the fucking House of Parliament in England, right? In your fucking own relationships. Anxiety does not acknowledge courage, but courage does acknowledge anxiety. And so the outcome of interactions are all about where people stand in that, with those dynamics, right? And I know that every kid I've told about this, they're all ears, man. They really love. Finally, there's this qualification of this hugely disturbing fucking thing, because young people love consciousness. They love consciousness. They're not interested in anxiety. They don't give a crap about it. But they are ambushed. They are ambushed, and they are they they're just ambushed and ambushed until they give in. Because that's the only way to please anxiety, is to go along with it, right? And you know what? That's how the economic system works.